everybody. Kay Crystal Griffith here, and welcome back for your daily digest of emotions, wisdom, and your body. Coming to you from, I think it's -5 out there right now in the Rockies. That seems a little chilly to me. But hey, I know people who are having babies in this weather. Whew, it's a good thing it's inside a hospital. That's all we're going to say about that. All right, so what is our topic for this evening now that we've gotten all the weather and we didn't talk about politics or religion yet? I'm sure I'll hit both of them in the meantime. All the topics that you're not supposed to talk about on lives, I tend to talk about. Welcome to my life. So I'm so glad that you're here. We are delving deeper every day of 2021, more into your emotions and how they affect your body, soul, and spirit. I am not a doctor. I do not play one on TV. I do have my master's in adult education, as well as 2 emotional trauma certifications and inner healing accreditations, and a couple other tidbits here or there. I'm working on that Dr. Amen Brain certification. Pretty excited about that one. This is for your education, edification, and encouragement. So what's our topic tonight? Our emotion is distant, like as in you are emotionally detached, distant. That means not being intimate, cool, you're reserved, remote, perhaps even abstract. You're being indifferent to activities, being maybe inflexible, defensiveness, overly critical. The silent treatment is your friend. Not really. Perhaps midst of some lies to keep that distance at bay, unwilling to talk about those feelings that are creating chaos in the life, unwilling to talk about damage from the past, and perhaps even taking more from the relationships than you give. If any of those sound like you may be having a little relationship with distance and emotional detachment. So let's talk a little more about what does emotional distance mean, or also called emotional drifting. This is a common phenomenon in relationships. It typically develops slowly, and it makes it easy to miss until really that gulf between you becomes pretty significant. There are numerous reasons emotional drifting might occur, and some of them might have to do with you, some might have to do with your partner, some might have to do with maybe something both of you encounter at the same time, especially if there's been a loss of a child, especially. So another part, I can talk tonight, really, I can. Another part of emotional detachment is emotional numbing or detachment. So this is also called emotional blunting. And that's a disconnection completely from emotion. It's used frequently as kind of a coping survival mechanism during some kind of traumatic childhood event, such as abuse or severe neglect. Over time and with much use, it really can become second nature when dealing with day-to-day stressors. So that's kind of start one. If you see that there's emotional numbing detachment happening in a relationship, really begin to ask the questions about what did childhood look like? If you can't pinpoint something that's going on in their lives together at that moment. Now, does that make you a therapist or a psychologist? No, don't do that. And the other piece to this is you cannot fix anyone. Trust me, you can't. It's not your job. It's God's job. So let's let him do it. Now, how does he do that? He can do that through the help of other people who are licensed professional counselors or people who work with inner healing and are certified like myself, people who understand what that trauma release looks like. And I really want to encourage you, again, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make them drink. So keep that in mind. So you have to make some decisions on boundaries if the emotional distance is continuing to create a toxic situation for your relationship. Something to think about. So is it negative or positive? I really couldn't find anything positive about it. I'm going to go with negative. So what are we really talking about? Emotional detachment and distance is really a form of anxiety, actually. And anxiety may have caused the brain to produce less positive emotion, which remember is your dopamine as well as your serotonin. And those are those neurotransmitters, which in turn cause you to experience emotional distance. If you have a deficit of something, it creates chaos within your brain, right? Emotional detachment may also be that result of traumatic events, which in themselves could have created some brain issues with a deprivation of those neurotransmitters. Emotional detachment can also lead to a depressed mood, inability to show or share emotions, and create behavior problems. Emotional numbing is frequently a symptom of other conditions. You may feel distance from your emotions at times if you have post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, personality disorders, And I want to add a couple that I didn't actually have written down. But if you have any relation to RAD, which is reactive attachment disorder, you probably have emotional detachment in correlation to that RAD. And so, super great, amazing tool to help with that particular piece, and really all of these emotional pieces, is Dr. Karen Purvis's TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention Model. And she was out of Texas. She passed away a couple of years ago, but her information, her understanding, her model is where that upstairs, downstairs brain comes from. And I really want to encourage you guys, if you haven't checked out that information that I shared as we talked about introverts and extroverts, and then emotions being repressed, I really go in depth in that upstairs, downstairs brain model. And I want to encourage you guys to watch those videos. They will help every single relationship that you have. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. So what happens if you have too much distance or too much emotional detachment? So some people that may take SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, big mouthful there, they're a type of antidepressant. A lot of people who are on those actually can experience what's called emotional blunting, which I mentioned earlier. And that's basically switching off the emotional center. And so if you are taking one of those and you are experiencing what we're talking about and you're like, oh, that's me, then I would encourage you to reach out to your doctor who's prescribed those medications and say, hey, can we modify this? Can we taper this a little bit? Can we titrate it? That's the word I was looking for. Because we really don't want you to be completely emotionally blunted. We want you to be able to feel your emotions. We want you to be able to identify what emotions you're feeling, actually. And in order to do that, you are going to need to be able to feel those emotions, right? So you can identify them. So you might have to adjust that just a little bit. So a lot of times what we're looking at when we have too much emotional detachment is a difficulty creating or maintaining personal relationships, a lack of attention, or appearing preoccupied when others are around. That's not what we're talking about with the phone. We talked a lot about that yesterday. And this is more just you're in another world. You're not emotionally present, is what we talked about the other day. And so we're just realizing that there's more to what's going on than just you missing it and being on your phone. Like your phone's not even there, the tablet's not there, the computer's not there, but your brain is off somewhere else instead of where it is present in the moment. Difficulty being loving or affectionate with a family member. Avoiding people, activities, or places because they're associated with a past trauma or an event. Reduced ability to express emotion. Difficulty empathizing with another person's feelings. Not easily sharing emotions or feelings. Difficulty committing to another person or a relationship. Not making another person a priority when they should be. Now, I say all of those, and I want to give you a caveat though. When we have been abused or we have walked through that kind of trauma in any form of what that abuse actually looks like, we will tend to do all of those things. I'm speaking from experience. Because there's a bigger fear of that trauma and getting hurt again and having to heal your heart again, having to heal your body again, having to heal your mindset again. And so it tends to become easier to just say, not going to go there with you. And so that can create a whole nother scenario of issues. So I just want to remind you of that. But I want you to really examine why you are creating that barrier between you and that person. Because if there's actually abuse there, that barrier is a form of protection, and I want you to seek help. Okay? You should not be in a situation where you have to put up a protective barrier between you and somebody else to feel safe, to feel at peace, to feel at ease, like you're not walking around in eggshells all the time. That is not okay, folks. And a lot of people really just, they're kind of bringing that out to the open finally, but we're not quite there yet. So I want to be another voice in the dark for that one. And trauma that's created by abuse, whole nother set of issues. So I really just want to distinguish between those two. There can be an emotional detachment because you have been in a situation where there is abuse, and that is a whole nother story. So if you want to talk to me more about that, you feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to have a conversation and give you some resources, some ideas. Sarah McDougall is actually a fabulous resource and in that particular department. And even today, she actually just posted a huge, amazing advocacy resource PDF that I'd be happy to pass on to you if you can't find it on her website. So that's just a thought for you. So let's get back to where we were. So how do we handle what I'm going to call emotional detachment in a normal, it's not normal, but in a more normal scenario that we're not dealing with the abuse piece, okay? Let's just separate those out for just a minute. So how do we handle those? Well, the first thing is you have to deal with those difficult emotions that are keeping you distant. And the Gottman Institute suggests, one, turning towards your emotions with acceptance. Is it okay for you to be distant? Remember, we have spoken many, many times about your first step to any type of healing is acceptance and awareness. They kind of go hand in hand, really. You can't really separate those out. So there's awareness, acceptance, and they go hand in hand to go, I just need to own where I am so then I can make changes to get where I want to go, right? Identify and label the emotions. You know, that feelings wheel that I have sent you guys, if you've signed up at kcrystalgriffith.com, you should have that in your email. And if you haven't, please reach out to me as well. And on that wheel, I encourage you guys to copy it several times and put it up all around your house so you can do quick check-ins when your eye catches it and go, oh yeah, what am I feeling right now? So you can begin to identify and be aware of what you're feeling in the moment. Instead of it just being the core 8, there's so many more, right? There's 27 that we now are aware of. And so that wheel has more because the 27 break out to bigger pieces. But the core, there's actually 27 now. Isn't that crazy? And guess what? Your amygdala hijacks your nervous system. You can feel all 27 at one time. Can you imagine feeling that? No wonder we go to downstairs brain and have an emotional meltdown. You have to accept your emotions as what they are, not right or wrong. They just are. Just allow them to be. So then you can process them and move through them. Realize the impertinent, I can't talk today. Impermanence, there we go. There's a good Scrabble word. Where's my friend Lynette? That's a good Scrabble word, Lynette. Impermanence of your emotions. So realize your emotions are fleeting, folks. That's really what that comes down to. They're temporary. They're seasonal. You will not be where you are forever. I promise you, you will not be where you are forever. And sometimes when we get stuck in the thought that we will be, that's when we really begin to make some choices that can not just harm ourselves, but harm other people. And so I just want to encourage you guys, remember, your emotions will change. I promise you they will change. They will. So inquire and investigate why you feel triggered. What is it about that post, that statement, that person that just triggered me? And I'm like, right? So what's going on there? What in there is really bothering me? Was it really a question about an insecurity of mine or an insecurity of theirs? And I'm taking it personally. Most of the time, it's probably their insecurity. Let go of the need to control your emotions. Boy, we try though, don't we? Heart healing is what's going to allow you the opportunity to find the root of why that distance exists in the first place. So again, if you want to schedule that inner healing session with me, I would love to help you out with that. kcrystalgriffith.com. I can get you on the Calendly and we can get that going. Another piece is strengthening your communication skills. And that's a lot easier to do when you know what you're feeling because you can own it. Instead of saying, you made me feel blah, blah, blah. Nope. It's all about you. It's your feelings. I feel blah, blah, blah when this happens. And so they don't always get that when you say it, but it is definitely a phrasing that you can work on. I feel blank when this happens. Not when you do this, but when this happens, or this event is occurring, or when this is the end result of what we're trying to work towards. Okay? Be honest about your heart. It's your heart. You got to be honest with it. You got to have a good relationship with yourself, right? So the good book says, love one another is what? Anybody? Love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? And if you're not loving yourself, you're not putting your oxygen mask on first, and then you can't love anybody else, right? Complain out loud to God. Oh, he's got the biggest ears, I've decided. He hears you. He understands. Can you, like, no one possibly can complain as much as King David did. Nobody. I've decided. Like, the whole book of Psalms is about David complaining most of the time, right? So, like, we cannot possibly complain as much as he did. And he was named God, man after God's own heart. So if David's in with that, let it rip, man. Complain away. God needs to hear it. And why? You need to allow your heart to feel it and get it off your heart. Practice receiving the love of God. How do you do with compliments? If you dismiss them, if you try and hand one back to somebody, if you can't just say thank you, how kind of you to notice, and leave it there, I suspect you're going to have a little difficulty receiving things from God too. I've been there. I get you. I understand. It's really fun now to get compliments or, people notice some things. And I'm like, thank you so much. Then I just stop. And I just laugh. And it was so funny because we were watching some teenage show with my kiddo the other day. And two of the girls come in, and one of them comes up and says, "Oh, I love your jacket so much." And the other girl goes, "Oh, thank you." She didn't rationalize it. "Oh, I got it at so-and-so store. I got it at the discount." And she didn't go back to, "Oh, and I love your blah, blah, blah." But the first girl was expecting that. The first girl was like, "Well, don't you like my dress?" Because that's what we tend to do, right? We give to get. That's not a good compliment. That's not a real compliment. Just give without strings, right? That's also gratitude. It's also appreciation. And it brings a smile to somebody else's heart. There's no strings attached. And they always know when there's no strings attached. So how do we deal with this emotional detachment? How do we deal with distance? Psalm 41:2. I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up from the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog. Can't get much lower than a miry bog. Psalm 6:6. I am weary with my moaning. Another version of complaining. Every night I flood my bed with tears. Thank goodness he captures every one, folks. I drench my couch with weeping. David was pretty upset. And Proverbs 31, I am weary, O God, I am weary, O God, I am worn out. Zephaniah 3:17. I love this one. The Lord your God is in your midst, a mighty one who he will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you by his love. He will exalt over you with loud singing. He, as in God, will exalt over you with loud singing. Have you ever thought about that? God singing over you. Wow. I can't wait. I love it. Now, think you might be able to have some emotional attachment with the creator of the universe singing over you? I bet you will. So how do you apply this new information about emotional detachment and distance? Remember, wisdom is the hearing as well as the understanding and application. And here are your 3 questions for the day. How has emotional detachment, distance, been showing up in your life? Has it been negative, or have you been trying to use it for positive? Now remember, if you're in that abusive situation, there is definitely a reason that you have that boundary for emotional distance. And I want to encourage you to seek help on that, okay? And how can you transform this emotion of emotional distance and detachment? By wisdom, understanding, and knowledge as you walk in it moving forward. So take those scriptures, add your name to them, personalize them. He wrote them just for you. And don't worry, I will post all those questions in our chat as well. Go live. I really would love to hear your thoughts, guys, on how you're enjoying these digests and what you're learning from them. Tomorrow's word is weary. I found that emotional detachment, walking on those eggshells all the time, It makes your body, soul, and spirit weary. And tomorrow we are going to talk about how to release some of that and how to walk in joy and fullness. This smile, folks, is not fake. I know without question, God sees through every day what I need, where we're going to go. And here's the funny story for the day. And here's how I know that. 2 years ago, 2019, early 2019, like spring, early 2019, on Facebook Marketplace, I saw this lighting kit for sale. It's usually like an $800 lighting kit at that point, and it was $100. And I, at that point, wanted to start a podcast that I thought I was going to need lighting for, like similar to this, right? I was like, oh, that's a great deal. So I got it. I wasn't quite ready for the podcast. I was in the middle of rearranging some rooms and setting up an office and stuff. So I put it in the garage. It's been there ever since. 2020 COVID hits and Zoom happens for everybody, right? And I was trying my hardest to get a green screen. They were out everywhere. I couldn't find one. Like, no joke. The cheapest one I could find was $912 for a green screen. I'm like, okay, well, I would go to Joann Fabrics and just buy some green fabric, but I can't go out of my house and they're not open. So I'm not quite sure what to do here. So I came up with neon green poster board that I had stuck in the garage too. And so I put that up, right, to make my green screen. It didn't work so well. So I gave up and now you have this lovely background. And so I bought a light ring, fast forward to, I guess it was summer of 2020, right before I did my Medical Mom Warrior Summit. And so I bought a light ring that was working. It had some issues. Very quickly, the wires started coming out. And wasn't that it was cheap, but I don't know what the wrong, I probably should have sent it back, to be honest. Well, the poor thing did not last a year. It died last week. The ring is gone, right? So you might have noticed the last couple of days I've had like major shadows in here trying to create lighting with taking light lamp shades off and stuff like that, right? So this is going somewhere, I promise. So remember, we're talking about how God sees us through. So remember, I bought this light thing 2 years ago. Yeah. So about a week ago, the light ring dies. I'm sleeping and I kind of go, oh, wait. I remember I bought that light thing. Like, where is that? I think it's in the garage. Maybe I can figure out how to make that work for the new light ring. I pulled it out today. I undid it. I couldn't find the directions anywhere to make my little light box work. It's still a little special right now. And so I'm digging in this bag. It's a very big bag. It's probably 5 feet long, 2 feet wide. It's a big bag. It has lots of cool stuff in it. It's like Pandora's bag. I just kept pulling stuff out of it. At the bottom of the bag was a green screen. That's how God works for me. If I would just like listen to him and remember that I bought the stuff that he told me to, I would have had a green screen all of 2020. I know. I just laughing so hard today. No, I don't have the green screen up because I really kind of like my background. What? I got the light box up and I know I own a green screen now. That was very exciting. Well, thank you for enduring my little story of the day. Join us again tomorrow for more on emotions, wisdom in your body. Register at K Crystal Griffith to receive more insights and your feelings wheel. And you guys have a fantastically blessed day. Take care.